People revere doctors a great deal, think that their words are important and must be taken seriously. And so if doctors are legitimizing this, well, it must be true.
Can you talk about that border and the understanding of, and your understanding of how Nazi pseudoscience was driving the twin experiments?
Yeah. Well, you see, as I said earlier, some of the measurements that Mengele made were standard scientific anthropological measurements that you'd make, height, weight, facial measurements. But then he crossed the border into this landscape where things were just so horrific that you can't imagine why he would do these and what they were supposed to show. The reason why Jews and others were put into these camps was that, people felt they were an inferior group and taking away from German culture, but also they had to legitimize it by having the doctors declare the inferiority. So if the doctors were doing this, people revere doctors a great deal, think that their words are important and must be taken seriously. And so if doctors are legitimizing this, well, it must be true. Maybe I don't agree with it, but if the doctor says it, it must be true. So I think that was a very important aspect of this whole operation.
Yeah, it seems like something that has continued even until today, where you have certain ideologies that are looking for ways into the mainstream, and you need a legitimate quote unquote expert. You need expertise behind an ideology in order for something to crack into the mainstream and have some standing. So the Nazis wanting to link up with doctors who are willing to say the type of things that would legitimize the experiments makes sense. And you can even see that all the way through like the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. You could see that through other medical experimentation continuing all the way up through today.
Right. And in fact, I mentioned my 2021 book, Deliberately Divided, about the controversial New York City study where twins were purposely separated and they were followed behaviorally and physically for 12 years. And, I know, having interviewed many people who worked on that study, that some of the graduate students at the time were very uncomfortable with this, to go to one family one day and one family the other day. But a lot of them resolved it by saying, well, if my professor does this and says it's okay, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think I understand that because, we depend on our mentors for jobs and recommendations, things like that. But I think if something really cuts across the grain, you have to find a way to deal with it. And I know one woman that I interviewed in that book who said that she told no one about her role in this, just her husband, and she would not have her name in the book. She allowed me to write her story without mentioning her name, which I did. So I think now there are more resources for students who may be upset with the professor or something that the professor is asking them to do. But certainly in those days, there was nothing like that.